Good morning, my name is Faye Padicchia and I am the Trust Maths Lead. This is the Year 6 Maths Workshop for Parents and I hope it will be useful for you. I've done these for several years now and following feedback from parents last year, I've tried to make them more year group specific. So hopefully you can see that screen. Let's try and make it whole screen. There we go. So we are going to consider what your child will learn about in maths, what they will learn or how they will learn maths at Castlemead and how you can support them to be successful at maths. So the national curriculum aims are based on the idea that maths is split into 3 areas. Many of you will be familiar with the computational procedural skills, so knowing maths facts and being able to add, subtract, multiply and divide. But there are 2 other areas that are really important. So the conceptual understanding, the understanding of what you're doing with those numbers and the applying what you know to solve problems. So the first part of the national curriculum is about becoming fluent in the fundamentals of maths, including through varied and frequent practice with increasingly complex problems over time, so that the children develop conceptual understanding and the ability to recall and apply knowledge rapidly and accurately. The second area is about reasoning, and this is where children follow a line of inquiry, they conjecture relationships and generalizations, and they develop an argument, justification or proof using mathematical language. And the final area is about solving problems. So children need to be able to apply their mathematics to a variety of routine and non-routine problems with increasing sophistication, including breaking down problems into a series of simpler steps and persevering in seeking solutions. So that perseverance is really key because sometimes being able to solve problems is not immediately obvious. So we want them to develop that approach. Okay, moving on. So looking at year 5 and 6 in particular, we want children to be able to extend their understanding of the number system and place value to include larger integers or larger numbers. So the principal focus of mathematics teaching in upper key stage 2 is to ensure that pupils extend their understanding of the number system and place value to include larger numbers, and that should help them to develop the connections that they make between multiplication and division with fractions, decimals and percentages, as well as ratio. The next point is that they should develop their ability to solve a wider range of problems. So we want children to be able to solve problems which include increasingly complex properties of numbers and arithmetic, and problems demanding efficient written and mental methods of calculation. And so then if they have that foundation of arithmetic, they are then introduced to the language of algebra as a means for solving a variety of problems. Next is teaching in geometry and measures should consolidate and extend children's knowledge that they've developed in number. So the teaching should also ensure that pupils classify shapes with increasingly complex geometric properties and that they learn the vocabulary that they need to describe them. So and then finally, we want children to be able to read, spell and pronounce mathematical vocabulary correctly. So by the end of year 6, pupils should be fluent in written methods for all 4 operations. That's long multiplication, division, working with fractions, decimals and percentages. And they should be able to read, spell and pronounce those words correctly. So teaching in geometry and measures, what we used to call shape, space and measures, should help them to consolidate and extend their knowledge developed in number. It should ensure that pupils classify shapes with increasingly complex geometric properties and that they learn the vocabulary they need to describe them. So what your child will learn about, the maths curriculum is split into 7 different areas, and those are place value, addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, fractions, which is a term which applies to fractions as we think of them, as well as decimals and percentages, parts of a whole, and then measurement, properties of shape, position and direction, and statistics. So in other words, data and graphs. Well, how does your child learn math at Castlemead? So we take what is generally known as the mastery approach to teaching and learning. And so that means that maths should be achievable for all children, regardless of their level of confidence. We have high expectations, encourage a positive can-do mindset towards maths in all pupils, and create learning experiences which develop children's resilience in the face of a challenge, and carefully scaffolding learning so that everyone can make progress. Learning should be deep and sustainable, so lessons are designed with careful small steps, questions and tasks in place to ensure that learning is not superficial. Learning builds on what went before, so their children's learning of concepts is seen as a continuum across the school. It's not just something that's taught separately in each year group. The children learn to reason about a concept and make connections. So that making connections means that children have a really good understanding of maths and the links between the different areas that they're learning about. So they're encouraged to make those connections and spot patterns between different concepts and use precise mathematical language, which frees up their working memory. That means their ability to hold things in their head, and then in turn deepens their conceptual understanding. Children develop conceptual and procedural fluency. So this means teachers move maths from one context to another using objects, pictorial representations, equations and word problems. And there are high expectations for pupils to learn times tables, key number facts, so that they are automatic and have a true sense of number. Pupils are also encouraged to think whether their method for tackling a problem is appropriate, reliable and efficient. What we don't want is children doing something a long way round, so doing a long calculation when they could have done something quickly and more efficiently in their heads. Problem solving is central. So this develops pupils' understanding of why something works so that they truly have an appreciation of what they are doing rather than just learning to repeat routines without grasping what is happening. And then finally, challenge through greater depth. Rather than accelerated content, moving on to the next year's concepts, which is what we used to do before 2016, teachers set tasks to deepen knowledge and improve reasoning skills within the objectives of their year group. One of the ways that we achieve this mastery approach is through what we call the CPA approach, C meaning concrete physical things, so where children are given objects and resources to manipulate, to move around and explore so that they can demonstrate their mathematical thinking. Pictorial representations, which provide opportunities for children to represent their thinking with diagrams, images, drawings or models. And then finally, the abstract phase where children represent their understanding with signs, symbols and digits. So this is a recognised progression for learning in mathematics, which we all need to do in order to be able to have that depth of understanding so that children can be as successful as they can be. And here are some examples, so really showing you the concrete alongside the abstract there. In the second picture, you've got the number split into the 5 parts. So in a way, we've combined all 3 things. So we've got the concrete sweeties inside the pictorial diagram of how we're splitting up the 30 into the 5 parts. And then underneath, we've got the abstract representation. And then on these on this page, we can see the pictorial representations of fractions in parts, and on a number line, and also with bars on the other page, but also how the child's then moved into the more abstract phase with their explanations and their use of the standard fraction representations. So how can you support your child to be successful at maths? Helping your child to practice working out and remembering facts will support them with more complex and challenging procedures and concepts. So you're freeing up their working memory so they don't have to hold all of that information in their head and work it out every time alongside the more challenging procedures. So if they can know these things automatically, it will help them so much. So we're thinking about number bonds to 10, 20 and 100. So number bonds meaning the numbers that go together to make those numbers. So for example, a number bond to 10 would be 6 and 4, 7 and 3, 1 and 9. Number bonds to 20, 2 and 18, 10 and 10, 13 and 7. And number bonds to 100, for example, 50 and 50, 25 and 75. Those kinds of things. Times tables facts to 12 times 12. Really, really important. Doubles and halves of numbers. So double 3 is 6, double 25 is 50, half of 80 is 40. Equivalent fractions, percentages and decimals. So if you know that a half is equivalent to 50% and also 0.5, those kinds of things, they're really important and very helpful. So top tips for you as parents. So is maths really that important at home? Parents have a great opportunity to develop their children's maths skills at home by involving them in everyday activities. Obviously, things are not what they usually are at the moment, and that may not be as straightforward as it was. And indeed, it may not have been straightforward anyway. So we're aware of that. But if you can do whatever you can do, it will make a difference. And most importantly, it's about the messages that you send your children around their learning and about maths in particular. So if your children can help you find the best deal for your car insurance or work out which supermarket deal is cheapest, then it's helping them understand maths in real life. It also helps develop their basic maths and problem-solving skills, which are really important in the current maths curriculum. Don't underestimate yourself or the power you have as a parent getting involved in your child's learning. Ofsted have specifically stated that parental engagement raises pupil achievement. So here are some tips and ideas to show how you can improve your child's Key Stage 2 math skills at home. So first of all, start with a positive mindset. Do you ever hear yourself saying, I'm really bad at maths, it's only small? But your children can pick up on negativity towards subjects, and unfortunately, this can be a real barrier to their learning. We advise parents to try using positive language around their children when talking about maths. You may not mean to be negative, but your children may take it to heart. Your positivity may well improve their maths attitude and indeed their outcomes. Play maths games together. So many games use mathematical and logical skills that your child or children will need in later life, plus they're fun. Games like jigsaw puzzles help children to develop logical and spatial awareness skills. Board games with dice develop children's counting skills. Other games that may develop your child's math skills are darts, Scrabble and chess. Learn their maths methods. You can also support your child's learning by getting to grips with the methods that they learn. Sometimes you might try to help by teaching children methods that you learned in school. but that can be confusing. So try instead to learn the method that your child uses. This ensures continuity between school and home learning for your child and genuinely improves their learning. Practice reading the time. As we move into digital, many children are growing up not reading analog clocks. Make sure your child practices reading analog clocks in everyday life, as this is part of the maths curriculum. It's as simple as reading the clock you may walk past on the side of a building. Use fractions in everyday life. Fractions can be simple for you to practice with your child. Simple common fractions can be reinforced at home, even if you're not too confident with them. Stick to fractions you know, like half and quarter. See a window split into 4 coloured panels? Ask your child what fraction of the window is blue. Just make sure that the separate parts are all the same size. Times tables. As everyone knows, it's essential for children to learn their times tables in order to access harder maths questions. This is an easy thing for you to practice with your children. Sneak it in when they're bored. Make car journeys go by faster, or distract them on the bus by asking times tables questions. Challenge them to say their maths times tables backwards if they get bored reciting them. Involve your child with problem solving. The Key Stage 2 maths curriculum requires pupils to be able to problem solve in maths. As parents, you can help your children practice these skills every day. You can ask them to tell you what is the best deal at the supermarket, or how much their pair of trousers are worth when there is a 30% sale on in the clothes store, or which internet provider has the best deal when you need to switch. Finally, play to their love of technology. Obviously, children are spending a lot of time on their devices at the moment, and there's no substitute for personal support with your child's maths. But when you're busy, or even just for a change, give children short bursts of online practice. We're spoiled for choice with maths apps on the market, and most really engage children. There's definitely no need to spend lots of money. Many are free or economically priced. But on the next slide, I'm going to also share a lot of really useful websites that you might find engage children. So White Rose is really useful. Lots of teachers are using White Rose with maths teaching, and you can find the chapters and lessons that are related to their current learning at school. Timetable Rockstars is also very appealing to many children, or Hit the Button. There's the Trust website, which is really good. BBC Bite Size has got all sorts of bits and pieces on it that might help support their learning. If your child wants something more challenging, Enrich is very, very good. Third Space Learning, the blog on there, you might, as parents, find that really, really useful in supporting your understanding of maths and the way that it's taught now. The Khan Academy is one of my favourite websites. It is American, but it shows how to do all sorts of different procedures, and the explanations on there are really in line with our mastery approach to teaching. So I think that you might find that really useful. It's very, very clear. So that brings me to the end of this workshop. I hope that was useful. If you have any questions, then do please get in touch, and I will do my very best to answer any of those questions. If you've got any suggestions about how I can improve my workshops, I'll be very pleased to hear about those ideas too. Okay, so thank you very much for now, and hope all goes well. Bye-bye now.